so awesome.
No, it was already here.
Oh. Just lie next time.
Thank you.
Sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial.
No, what was that? Where I usually am, only as Amy is training.
Quite well. Hey, we got an outdoor kitchen and a deck. We can have, yeah, right there. All right.
Laura, it's so good to see you. It's sad, right? We did the Sound of the County Slate. We did it. And we still do it. When we came in as progressives, and we still running our tournament. We're still progressive. We haven't like let down our community. We're still doing what we said. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Hey, good. How are you?
Yeah. Otherwise, we don't have enough.
Well, that wouldn't be good. So I guess they have to have.
Might have been.
We're sorry.
Here, you're gonna give this to her, right? Yeah.
Okay, the mics are very sensitive for some.
Hello?
Hi, sorry, Commissioner Simon Weisberg, can you hear me?
Yep.
Let me just turn the volume down a bit. Okay, how's that?
Yep.
Okay, so we're getting ready to get started. If you can just stay on the line, the chair hasn't called the meeting to order yet. Thanks.
Okay, so can I ask a question though? So if I am, how much do people usually watch the video and respond to that, or they just go based on what they're hearing?
Are you talking about the board or the public?
No, I mean in terms of when like people are participating by phone. I mean, I'm watching it on the video.
You can just speak up, or you can send me a text saying that you want to speak, and I can motion the chair, whatever your preference.
Okay, and is this your text number as well?
The one I texted you on, I texted you on your number.
Yeah.
Do you have mine?
No, is this different, the number you called me on?
It is. This is the number of the boardroom. So I can text you my number if that's...
Yeah, if you want to do it on this one, or you can.
Well, actually, I did text you, but you're not on your phone, so...
No, I ended up not having my phone with me. Computer.
Do you have access to email?
Yeah.
Okay, let me email you my number. It'll just delay the meeting start.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. We just have a lot of members of the public here waiting, so I will hurry and do that now. Oh, Leah,
Oh,
did you hear
I
that?
didn't realize all of this, yes. is on.
Yeah, we can hear everything. The microphones are really sensitive, so.
Okay.
No time for humor. Okay. So Leah,
Yes.
we're still hearing background noise. It's faint, but
Oh, from me? Okay.
yes, from you. So I just texted you my cell phone number, so if you would like to speak for an item, you can just text me, I'll pay attention, and then I'll let the chair know, or you can just speak, and we'll be able to hear you.
Great, thanks.
Okay. So, clearly we have Commissioner Simon Weisberg on the line. I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for everyone coming out today. Yay! Thank you for coming to the Rent Board meeting. So we're calling to a Rent Stabilization Board regular meeting. Today is Thursday, June 20th, 2019, and I call this meeting to order. So first item, let's do roll call, please.
Commissioner Alpert,
Present.
Chang,
Here.
Poblet. Commissioner Poblet will be absent this evening. Solosky.
Present.
Simon Weisberg. Leah.
Hello. Oh,
Commissioner Simon Weisberg, can you hear me?
We're still hearing background noise.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Sotovihil. Tregub.
Present.
Laverde.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so we approval of the agenda.
I will motion. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I had a hopefully friendly amendment. to your
Sure.
motion. I'll second your motion. I'd love to see if we can add the following items to the consent calendar. Action items 9A2, recommendation to approve resolution 19-13, authorizing the FY 19-20 line item budget, staffing model, and expenditure level. 9A3, adopting resolutions 1914 and 1915, authorizing the executive director to modify the contract with the Eviction Defense Center in an amount not to exceed $150,000 and the East Bay Community Law Center in an amount not to exceed $142,500 for FY 2019-2020. Sorry, I'm just reading these for the record, for the benefit of the public. Item 9A4, recommendation to adopt resolution 19-16, authorizing the executive director to modify the contract with Brian Augusta and Associates for legislative advocacy in FY 19-20 in an amount not to exceed $60,000. 9A5, recommendation to adopt resolution 19-17, authorizing the executive director to modify the contract with Berkeley Community Media in an amount not to exceed $22,000 for specified services in FY 19 and 20. And 9A6, which would be the proposal to approve staff recommendations on various requests for waivers of late registration penalties. And additionally, I'd love to see, and I checked in with the author of consent item 4D, to be added as a co-sponsor for that item.
Okay.
I do find that as a friendly amendment, but I also know that you made some track changes that was submitted. Is it, did I not look through it carefully?
Upon further discussion with the executive director, it seems that there is no need for the track changes that I made, and so I'm comfortable just requesting to be added as a co-sponsor.
Go ahead.
And Chair Laverde, the consent item 4A, the meeting minutes from April 18th are not in the packet, so they'll have to be held over till the next meeting.
Okay, let's hold them. So can I go over what's been moved to the consent?
Please.
So 9A3, 9A4, 9A5, and 9A6?
And 9A2.
And 9A2.
The budget.
And then 9A2, oh, that's the one I was missing.
As well as adding Commissioner Tregub as a co-sponsor for item 4D,
Yes.
and holding over the consent item 4A to the next meeting.
Okay, and we did, do we have a second Who seconded?
That,
You?
that was
do.
my second.
Okay, so we need to take a roll call?
Correct. And is the maker friendly to all of those amendments?
Yes, and sorry if I did not hear this, but Commissioner Solosky, you're okay with adding Commissioner Tregu? Okay, yes, so yes, yes, yes.
Great. So a roll call vote on those, to approve the agenda with those changes. Commissioner Alpert?
Aye.
Chang?
Yes.
Solosky?
Yes.
Simon Weisberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Sotomayor?
Yes.
Tregu?
Yes.
Laverde?
Yes.
Motion carries 7002.
Fabulous. Next, we're going to public forum. I have not received any comment cards. Does anyone want to come and speak on public forum?
If you'd like to, the cards are right up here.
Speakers have 3 minutes.
Oh, we haven't started yet.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. We have to wait. Oh, let's see. Oh, that's all. Okay. Did anyone else want to speak, the public comment?
Okay, first.
Oh, hold on 1 second, 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff. Can you hear me now? Is it on?
Yes, that's better.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on now? Okay, we've got the machine working. Moni Law, in my capacity as a resident of Berkeley, and I just wanted to briefly give an announcement about something that relates to your mission. Through 13.76 of the Berkeley Municipal Code, our mission statement includes protecting affordable housing for students, people with disabilities, what's written as minorities, and seniors, and low-income persons. So, under the NAACP heading, and I'd like to thank recent Commissioner Murphy for her assistance. At Juneteenth, we handed out under the NAACP banner the Status of Black Berkeley Survey. So this is a public announcement to any and all Black people, the few that are remaining in Berkeley. If you could please contact the NAACP and fill out this survey. And two of the council members, Bartlett and Davila, also helped to sort of support and submit to this survey to kind of determine why 40% of our population that was African American just 15 years ago has dropped down to 8%. Where have people gone and why? Were they evicted? Were they priced out? Were they constructively evicted? There's a list of reasons that are given, and also where did they go? The new Black Berkeley I submit is Vallejo, Hayward, and Antioch, and people are commuting a far distance for their jobs, their schools, their kids' activities, etc. So it's a real tragedy that we need to stem the tide, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Marsha Poole?
Hi. I would like to approach a tenants issue in a non-adversarial way. I live in an apartment that has a gas wall heater and a gas stove. Now, I know that we've tried to make it safe for tenants with gas appliances, and my landlord put in the requisite carbon monoxide alarms and everything. But it turns out in the winter, fall, we had a real problem with carbon monoxide. We had 400 parts per whatever in my living room. I had very severe asthma. Louis got dizzy. My dog was coughing all the time. The PG&E came over, read what was happening and turned off the heat and the stove because it was leaking in both places. Now, I am not blaming my landlord, okay? Because, no, I'm not, because I think he tried. He had the alarms there. He thought he was doing the right thing. I think we have to reconsider how we deal with carbon monoxide. I would like to, I mean, these alarms go up to 10 years, but the PG&E people say they really don't last that long. So I'd say make sure it's only 5 years. And also, I think we should get away from the gas, like the wall heaters that, you know, it turns out the flue, something about, I don't know, gravity, and a lot of the carbon monoxide goes into the air. So I just think there's something wrong. If it would happen to me, you know, and I have carbon monoxide alarms in my house, then what about the young students? What about other people? So I would like you to really reconsider the carbon monoxide problem with renters. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying this happened.
Thank you very much. Yeah, want a question? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Ms. Poole?
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. You can stay in your seat. I guess this is a three-part comment. First of all, thank you for sharing that. And I'm so sorry that this happened and so troubled that this has happened to anyone, let alone a valued activist and advocate for our community. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to talk with our staff and Director Kalikian if you would be so kind as to talk with Ms. Poole when there's a possibility. This is exactly what a strengthened rental housing safety program is designed to do. I'd like to thank the Rent Board for its advocacy of many years to make the RHSB stronger. And I would like an update on how progress towards implementing a more robust inspection requirement for issues like that one. And I also, I would like to probably agendize this issue on a future 4x4 meeting. That committee has been dealing with this issue, and looks like there's still more work to be done. And finally, I'm personally hoping that as soon as the council is poised to pass an electrification ordinance in July, and that would be for new construction to ensure that every unit is all electric, not even connected to a gas line. And I'm hoping that as soon as that happens, we can start working on phase 2, which is how we can implement that for existing units at minimal or ideally no cost to sitting tenants. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Actually important because we did have 2 Berkeley tenants die a couple years ago because of monoxide poisoning, so yes. Okay, our next speaker, former Rent Board Commissioner Christina Murphy.
Oh, thank you. Oh, hello? Okay. Thank you. So I just wanted to make an announcement. So on Sunday, June 23rd, from 2 to 5, South Berkeley, at the South Berkeley Community Church on Ellis and Fairview, is having a community forum about the draft of Adeline Corridor Plan. It just was released by the City of Berkeley. We believe, Friends of Adeline believe that housing is a human right, and also when you come out to this forum, you would also be informed about our Plan B that we have. So hopefully we will gain your support on supporting Friends of Adeline in the community on Plan B instead of the Adeline Corridor Plan that's already up and out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Wait, can I, can I just say, they are still taking public comments on the Adeline Corridor Plan, and I do hope that after the event, whatever comments are made and submitted will be formally emailed to the Planning Commission as part of the public process. So that way, you will be formally heard and in the record, in the government records for the Adeline Corridor Plan during the public comment process.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Okay, so next we go on item, section 4, consent items. So I just want to confirm, Ms. Amy, that, so the April 18th meeting minutes are still on hold for July, right?
July.
Okay, so then we have approval of the May 16 regular meeting minutes. Do we move?
The minutes are not ready, right, so we would.
That's May. For the May?
Did you want me to reread what I have for the consent items?
Sure.
There's a whole
Oh, no,
list
we
of-
have a whole list. We have a
Yeah.
whole list.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, we have all items 9A, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have consent, approval of the May 16th regular meeting minutes, item C, request for Commissioner Tragub's absence, and then suspension of collection of registration fees. So,
And 4E.
and for a recommendation that the board withdraw from support from AB 53.
Correct.
So,
And I'll move that. I'll move all those items as consent.
I second. No?
Sorry, who was the second?
Oh,
Trigger?
We'll give it to Commissioner Trigub.
no, someone else said.
Actually, I second it, but that's fine. So we can give it to Commissioner Trigub.
Excellent. Okay, so since there's no discussion, did you want to move to a roll call vote on all those items?
Let's move on a roll call vote. Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Alpert?
Aye.
Chang?
Yes.
Solosky?
Yes.
Simon Weisberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Sotovihil?
Yes.
Tregu?
Yes.
Liberte?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yay. Great, now we're coming to the fun part of the meeting. So we have a special order of meeting, of business. We have a presentation of our honorary resolution and gift for former Commissioner Christina Murphy to be distributed. So in order to do this, we need to take a roll call. So,
Did you want to read the resolution first?
actually, yes, I'm going to have Commissioner Solosky read the resolution.
Gladly. Well, gladly and sadly, because you're leaving, but Resolution 19-12. In appreciation of Christina Murphy for her years of service to the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board and the City of Berkeley. Be it resolved by the Rent Stabilization Board of the City of Berkeley that, whereas Christina Murphy was elected to the Berkeley Rent Board in November 2016, and whereas prior to her election and service on Berkeley's Rent Stabilization Board, Christina Murphy served as a community leader and an activist, as an employee of the Berkeley Drop-In Center and a tireless advocate for the homeless and those in transitional housing, as well as a very active member of Friends of Adeline, where she helped work on and advocate for anti-displacement strategies and affordable housing solutions for her community and the larger Berkeley community. And whereas Christina Murphy has been an active participant in numerous city and community issues and initiatives, including, but not limited to, issues of housing, displacement, police accountability, and community-based solutions. Whereas Christina Murphy has been a consistent and reasonable advocate and voice for Berkeley's small landlords and property owners, as well as the many tenants in Berkeley. Whereas Christina Murphy has served with vigor and singular focus on the Rent Board's Outreach Committee, Eviction Section 8 Foreclosure Committee, the Ad Hoc Committee on the Effects of Costa-Hawkins, and the 4x4 Joint Committee on Housing, and has participated in board discussions on the topics and issues most pressing to the Rent Board and to the tenants of Berkeley. And whereas Christina Murphy has exhibited fairness, respect, and an uncommon willingness to listen and learn from staff, other board members, the public, and the residents of Berkeley. And whereas Christina Murphy has resigned her seat on the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board due to family and work commitments, having to leave the community she has advocated for and served so well. And whereas Christina Murphy has dedicated herself and her energy to improve the lives and safety of all tenants in Berkeley, and to help make Berkeley a leader in rent control and tenants' rights and protections, as well as acting fairly and consistently for small landlords and property owners. And whereas Christina Murphy is an advocate for South Berkeley and the East Bay's Black, African American, Asian American, and LGBT community, an outspoken voice for all people and the voice for the voiceless. And whereas Christina Murphy, as an advocate for the disability community, is a champion in fighting against the stigma of mental health. And whereas Christina Murphy is a trusted community leader and served as a standby officer for the city of Berkeley. And whereas Christina Murphy has stayed true to her values and ideals and has regularly reminded the board of our own obligations to do the same in the protection and advocacy of our most vulnerable residents, and has done so with commitment, caring, and without animosity or rancor. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board hereby thanks Christina Murphy for her service in the city of Berkeley and on the Rent Stabilization Board. And be it further resolved that the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board wishes Christina Murphy the very best of luck in her future endeavors. Dated June 20th, 2019.
All those in favor? Yes, yes. So we want to have a roll call vote on this.
Yes. So to approve the resolution that Commissioner Solosky just read aloud in honor and appreciation of Christina Murphy, Commissioner Alpert,
Aye.
Chang,
Yes.
Solosky,
Yes.
Simon Weisberg,
Absolutely.
thank you. Sotomayor,
We want you back. Yes.
I take it that's a yes. Tregu,
If I don't say yes, would you come back and join us? Okay, yes.
Laverde.
Yes, by all means.
Motion carries unanimously.
Now, I would like to invite Marky. You want a little public comment for the commissioner? Oh, we have a gift together. I'll give it to you later. Can I open it?
As was noted in the resolution that Commissioner Slawski read, Christina has played an important role in the South Berkeley community and with the Friends of Adeline. And we honor her and we love her, and we've a gift for her. Those of you who can't see it, it's a portion of the mural which is on Ashby Avenue. And it says, Christina Murphy, we appreciate the way you have represented us and all the residents of South Berkeley and tenants throughout the city on the Berkeley Rent Board and through your ongoing public advocacy for all those in need. You have been a model to us through your willingness to stand up and speak loudly and clearly for what you believe. Your home will always be in our beloved community, no matter where you live.
Aw. That's lovely. And Commissioner Murphy, the board also has a little gift for you. So,
You want to give her the...
yeah, we have to get
It's
both.
not signed yet.
It's not-
Oh,
it has to
okay,
be
you're right.
approved.
You're right.
No, that's only these two, but it's not the official one yet.
Oh, can we give our statements to her? Can we say stuff to her?
Sure, afterwards. Yeah. Christina's getting a gift? No, this one doesn't. Oh, blue pen. Give it back to her.
So beautiful.
But not this one, no, you don't sign this
This is a mini resolution that they
one. Don't
just
you want the one
read.
for-
I should put it on my desk at work.
Yes, by all means.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Am I able to do my speech?
Yes, by all means, go ahead.
Okay.
You have an hour.
Okay, cool. So first, I want to thank all the people in the community that offered me a place to live so that I didn't have to move to Vallejo. They went on record and said, hey, you could come live in my house. And it was about 4, 5, 8, 12, 15 people that said it to me that week. And so I really appreciate that. It's really emotional to leave Berkeley and to leave the Rent Stabilization Board because we were like the transformers and of our community. And I knew that I can trust the people on the board because everyone had the same outlook, which was help the people in the community, right? And so that's what the tears coming from. The tears are coming because, like, I love y'all, you know, like we developed, this is probably the most unique board that's ever been on the Rent Stabilization Board. The camaraderie, the morale, the break, we get into it and we hug at the end, and I appreciate that. And so I wrote a speech because I didn't want to forget to say anything, so I'm going to try to read it. I just want to thank everybody for coming out too because I'm nervous. Oh, look, I'm nervous. And it's a lot of good people that's here to supporting me, and I really appreciate that. And I will not, even though I don't live in Berkeley, I'll still be coming to city council meetings, and I'll still be coming to all the events, still be handing out flyers, still canvas, still working on other people's campaign as well, because I love Berkeley, and Berkeley is me. There are a number of other community members that I'm very grateful for, such as Max Anderson, Chris Worthington, which both are formerly Berkeley City Council representatives, who I must say have paved the road and left large, noticeable footprints in our community and opened doors for community members like me to get involved and use my knowledge, experience, and experiences that have been shared to me by the Berkeley community members that I have served with housing leads and have advocated to landlords and property homeowners about the shortage of housing and the different housing subsidy programs that they could benefit from by helping house the most affected and help support needs of underserved, unhoused community members in Berkeley. Max Anderson supported me and always have had an open door policy for me. He made me feel listened to and showed me compassion for my concerns. Chris Worthington appointed me to the Police Review Committee, which was very important to me because the Black community didn't trust the new Berkeley Police Department. But I was trusted to take their stories to the Police Review Committee as their voice, because at the time, even now, there was a significant amount of racial impartial policing in Berkeley on our streets and during traffic stops. While there is data to support, thank you, George Letman, for your tirelessly work. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of work and accountability that needs to take place in Berkeley Police Department. Chris Worthington also proposed and opened the door for an alternative commissioner to serve when the appointed commissioner was unavailable. I thank you for that, Chris Worthington. That opened up a door for me to get me involved, even though Tom Banks didn't want me around. Max Anderson and Chris Worthington are one of a kind, and we need more leaders in elected boards like them that listens to the community. I would also like to thank the Friends of Adeline for coaching and encouraging me to run for a seat on the Berkeley Rent Board Stabilization. I remember when we were having our Monday routine Friends of Adeline community meeting, it was discussed that there was a serious need for a person of African American culture, a person of color, to run for the open seat on the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board for 2016 election. I said, Who should that be? And out of nowhere, I heard Jean say, "You should run, Christina. You would be perfect. Your voice is needed on the board, and you have a high possibility of winning Judy Hunt's seat." That was the moment my life changed. The Friends of Adeline supported me through my whole campaign and still is currently to this day. At times, it really got hard to hear some of the stories and receive the negative feedback at times. Some people tried to bully me and discourage me from running, but still, my Friends of Adeline family and friends never gave up on me and continued to encourage me and at times take up for me in the moment. If the Friends of Adeline support and believe in you, then you are covered to defeat anything against you. There were many days of rain, but that did not stop Friends of Adeline or the community members or my family and friends that volunteered on the Cali Slate campaign with the phone banking and canvassing during all types of weather challenges. I also would like to share my gratitude for all the generous donations. Without the donations, I would not have been able to get the campaign materials. We, the Cali Slate, took over the 2016 election with coming together, and halfway through the campaign there was misunderstandings, but we got through it. It was with a better understanding and respect for each other. Thank you, Thank you, Jesse Arreguin's mother, for making the best gingerbread cookies I ever had in my life during our campaign. Thank you, John and Xavier and Genevieve, our campaign managers. You all helped us together during these hard times. The whole Cali Slate won the 2016 election, and we showed the community and our opponents that you can look, think, grow up different, and still work together. Also, agree to disagree, and still get the job done for the better good of our community we represent. We were the progressive slate, and we still have proven during our term on the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board that we are the progressives. The Cali Slate has not changed since elected in 2016. There are many rent board commissioners that have gave me extra support outside of the commission. Alejandro, James, Igor, John, and Paula. I remember times when I was nervous to speak up, and Paula said, "You need to take the lead. It's women time. It's time for the women to take power," and I appreciate her for that. There has been a number of times I may have been in trouble, and Leah Simon Weisberg and Ben Barlett has supported me with legal advice all the way with no charge, and thank you for that. Without you two, I probably would have been in trouble or in the newspapers, so thank you. I also want to give a special thanks to Matt Brown and Jay Kalecki for making time for me and my concerns and helping me understand how the Rent Stabilization Board runs. Amy, thank you for printing out the huge agendas for me when I asked, even though the board voted for paperless. Thank you, Moni Law, for always welcoming me with warm, open arms from day one. You have extended your support to me. I want to thank my family and friends and the community that believed in me and never gave up on me. Thank you, Mama, for Tina Smith, for coming out to help the Cali Slate stuff candidate informational pamphlets to get the word out. My immediate family came when I was sworn in and took my oath, and that was a memory I would never forget. Rest in peace, Christopher Jr. Murphy, my little but big brother, and Christopher Jeffrey Murphy, my father, gone but not forgotten. During these losses, the community has reached out to me in support, and I thank everyone for the cars and the meals prepared for me and the cause. I really needed comforting, and I received a lot of it from my community. I received enough to empower me to get back in the swing of things and lace my boots. Because I didn't give up today, I am a program manager at a Pure Respite called Sally's Place, a place for people to heal during a distress or crisis time. Our community needs a respite, home-like environment to allow our community members to heal and exit feeling renewed. That's how you rebuild and support our Berkeley community members. I moved to Vallejo from Berkeley because I could barely afford to live and travel to work. Even with the housing voucher, it was still hard to make ends meet at times. But I am a Berkeley native, and I would never sleep on the issues that affect the city of Berkeley. I was born and raised here, and I will continue to fight for the people that are unheard in Berkeley and the community members that was pushed out due to high rents and loss of funding for needed resources. I will continue to be the unique voice for the voiceless in our community. My advice to my community members, stay active and informed of the upcoming changes and proposal ideals and recommendations on the City Council's agenda. The day that you stop being involved is the day our community loses everything. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere, because I think we have some commissioners who would like to make some comments. Christina? Alejandro, go ahead.
What were you saying, Jay?
Yeah, Alejandro, you can go. I'll call you.
So I didn't put this in any order. Let me wait. I don't like you right now. You're leaving us. You became my sister through this whole process, honestly. I love you a lot. You know that. I learned so much from you. I really did. Now I know South Berkeley. First, you were my first lens, and thanks to you, I now work at the Drop-In Center and help so many people who are so disenfranchised, have mental health challenges, have alcohol and other drug challenges, homeless issues, health issues, you name it, because of you. Thank you. Today's the largest crowd I think we've had since I've ever served on the board, and that's a testament to you, who you are, what you've done, who loves you, and how people perceive what you've done for the community. I'm starting to teach a class at Contra Costa College, and I keep talking about elected officials, and you're a model elected official. You really are. From the ground up, that's what we need in this society. For real. Not people who are egotistical and running because they want to, but because the community asks you to, and you represent them to the fullest. You're unique. We all agree to that. One of my favorite recollections of your activism is always telling Tom Bates what time it was. And I swear, watching those meetings, I just loved. It was the best part of the meeting was watching, well, first, waiting for Christina Murphy to go up there and speak to Tom and just telling him what time it was because he was not listening. And Christina was not going to hold back her words, right? And that's why we love her, because she's always speaking truth to power. You're a champion of the people. We all know that. And Vallejo is so lucky to have you. They have so many challenges there. We're a wealthy community here. Yeah, we have challenges and we're being displaced, but they have a lot of challenges. So I recommend you stick your head into their politics and rock their world. You're fun to be around. So much fun that I'd violate the Brown Act by texting her in the meeting, so I'm admitting to that. Go ahead and prosecute us. Who am I going to do that with now? I've deleted all of them because they were so funny. But I love you, honestly. You're my sister. You will always be. I got your back anytime. Let me know. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Next, Commissioner Simon Weisberg would like to say some words.
Thank you. I'm so sorry that I'm not there tonight. And Christina, you've just been extremely inspiring the whole time you've been there. And I just appreciate so much so many of our conversations. And yes, I think it's, we've really grown as a board, and you'll definitely be missed. And obviously the only silver lining is that Vallejo is in desperate need for rent control, and I know there's a movement growing there. So I think they will really benefit from your leadership. Yeah, and I'm sorry that you're leaving us, as I think everybody has said, but you know, I've learned so much from you and really have appreciated having you as a colleague.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next is Commissioner Trigup.
Christina, when you first called me and asked for my advice, I was like, sure, of course. And then you asked, what can I do to finish up Wentworth business as I'm looking for a place to move? And that really hurt so much, because in that moment, your struggle to find a place that would be affordable for you as the incredible community advocate that you are, that became everyone's story. That became Berkeley's story. And I'm so sorry that we were not able to do right by you, to ensure that there is a place that is affordable for someone like you. That just means that we have so much more work to do. The city as a whole has so much more work to do. But you won't be far, and that's the silver lining. And the other silver lining is you're going to give Vallejo a taste of what they've been looking for a long time, because you're going to shake some things up out there, just as we were able to shake some things up here in Berkeley. Berkeley's loss, someone already said, is Vallejo's gain. Christina, I'm going to miss so much the 3 years that we have had the opportunity to work together. And I thank the Lord for providing us with that opportunity, because what I learned from you, I will never forget. Your moral fortitude, your resilience in the face of whatever adversity befell any one of us. The reminder that no matter what happens outside of these four walls, we are a family. And while we may at times have our disagreements, we resolve them like family. And when there is a need for a place to come back to, when there is a need to feel loved and included, we are family. Christina, thank you so much. I so appreciate what you said in your speech. It was very eloquent. Please know that whatever inspiration you drew from some of the giants of Berkeley, including some of the very people in this room, like Max Anderson and all the members of Friends of Adeline, you have done right, and you have made them and all of us proud with your service. And it is our moral obligation, as you pass on this torch, to ensure that whoever comes next learns from you. So let this be putting everyone on notice that is planning to apply for your seat. I'm going to be asking, what part of Christina Murphy can you bring to the board? Because it is sorely, sorely needed. Thank you for everything. I feel blessed and grateful that while you may not be sitting here next month or this month, that we will forever remain friends. And get ready, because the late night texts are not going to stop. And if I'm on my way to Sacramento, I'm going to make a little stop at Vallejo and visit my friend.
Yes.
And I hope you do the same.
Yes.
Please know that you have a place here in Berkeley anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Solosky?
Thank you. Christina, folks have said a lot already, and I just want to say that I will miss you, that I love you, that I've really, really treasured the time we've worked together, we've laughed together, we've gotten angry over issues together, we've walked the streets together, we've worked on policy up here on the board together. You're a beacon for your community. You truly are. Be a beacon in Vallejo as well. And I know, I hope this is not the last time I'm going to see you here or in Berkeley. So I trust I will see you again, and we will spend time together again. But truly, truly, will miss you, and I love you dearly.
Thank you.
And good luck. Take care.
Thank you.
Commissioner Alpert?
As the newest member of this body, I am very sad that I got to spend so little time with you on this board. And I'm extra sad that I only got involved in Berkeley city politics too late to see you give public comment to Mayor Bates. Oh yes, there is an archive. I can go spend late nights watching those. I'm sure they'll be very entertaining. But I'll keep it brief and just say, as has been said, we are so much worse off without you, and Vallejo will be so much better off for you. I'm looking forward to all the things you will do, and I'm sure very soon that you'll need us knocking on doors for you in Vallejo. So good luck.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Chang?
Thank you, Chair Laverde, and thank you for allowing me to speak and giving me a moment. I did prepare some remarks as well. Christina, I am so honored to call you my friend and my colleague on the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board. Very sad to see you leave this board. I still remember the first time we met. There you were, calling Mayor Bates out at city council meetings when he was not there for the people. And even now, after getting elected, you still call out the mayor when you feel like things start slipping and when politicians are not here for the people. You are fearless, your courage is an inspiration, and I will never forget. The first time we worked together and attended Attendance Together event in San Francisco, and you shared with me your experience being from South Berkeley and how you became an advocate. And then, I will never forget seeing you in action advocating for the homeless, even those on the streets who are mentally ill. Thank you for being the voice for the voiceless. I've had the honor of serving with you on the outreach committee throughout your term, and I'm so blessed to have you there. When we get caught up in the details of policy making, you always made sure that we focused our attention back to the people of Berkeley, especially to the folks who are most marginalized, especially folks in South Berkeley, people of color, more importantly, African Americans, and people who are at most risk of displacement. I thought I was the woke princess social justice warrior when I graduated UC Berkeley, but when I met you, you brought me back to reality. And it is because of you, I have a passion and a commitment for South Berkeley. I now work for Councilmember Bartlett, representing South Berkeley, and we will fight to carry on your legacy. I know you and I may not have voted the same many times, but you are always open to working with me and never afraid to check me. And that's why I feel like I have such a strong bond with you. It was never about politics with you, it was always about the people. And perhaps that is why it is so hard to see you leave. I want to end by saying how happy I am for you. As a millennial board member, I dream of owning a home, and I'm so proud of you for being the glue to your family and made it possible to own a home. I know it wasn't easy, and I am proud of you. I hope that the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board has prepared you for whatever future public service role you decide to pursue, whether that is your work in the mental health field, elected office, or just winning. I know you will do amazing things. Berkeley is here for you and cheering for you. Keep posting those inspirational videos on Facebook. You know I follow you, and I follow a few of those preachers because of you. You know I love you, Christina Murphy. You're like my big sister. I miss you, but I know this is just the beginning for you. You got this.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to close out. I mean, I can echo everything everybody said. I did. The first time I experienced you was at a city council meeting, and it was so, so refreshing to see. And what you do bring is that you brought true community activism to a political office. You know, becoming a person and coming into this position and not knowing how the system works is daunting. This is daunting for people who have never been in this and understand the system. And Christina, you really worked hard. So I'm so happy for you because this is now good experience that you have under your belt. And you know how the system works, and that's so important. And because you are a voice for the people, so I'm so happy for you. This is not an end. This is just a new chapter in your life as a leader, as your life as a homeowner, as your life in a new community where you can make a difference. And I will be there to help you in whatever I can to help you make a big difference in your community. But I'm also happy for you because, you know, life doesn't stop. It's going, and you're having a new adventure. And who knows what great things you can experience in your new home and here in Berkeley as you keep in contact with your community. So congratulations, and it's all going to be great. So I want to give you this, the resolution.
Thank you.
And you will be getting a new one in the mail with all the signatures and all the votes. Okay? Thank you so much.
So I just want to thank everybody for all their kind words. It's love in the air, and I appreciate the support. You know, it ain't easy being a consumer with mental health and then having to, you know, a part of your life, you shy it off by not sharing it with people. But I was able to share that with y'all, and like y'all said, all y'all are now involved in helping people with mental health and disabilities. And now people are starting to see that we need more help in South Berkeley. So we need people from other areas of Berkeley to come to South Berkeley to help us advocate. And you will be seeing me more because Jesse needs to hear my mouth a little. So I will be coming to City Council so you can watch that. I already told Jesse at Juneteenth to look out. I'll be there. He said he's not scared, so we'll see. I'll be there. And last but not least, I wanted to you know, I remember when I first started the REM board, I didn't know nothing about getting endorsements. Like, I didn't know that endorsements play a big part in you winning and play a big part in part of the community that support the people that endorse you, so they'll vote for you because of people that endorsed you. And so I want to thank Igor and James and Alejandro. You guys, and Alejandro, you went hard. You gave us all the lists on where to go and everything to go to get these endorsements that mattered and counted. And so, Soli, I want to thank you because I remember I came to an interview and I was so nervous. You was my first interview I came to. You were part of the panel. I forgot which one it was, but it was for an endorsement. And I was so nervous, but when I came in, you smiled at me, and you was like being kind to me with your questions, and I got your vote, and because of your vote, one of your votes is the vote that got me in too. So I would never forget all the community members that supported me, that helped me get elected. Almost 30,000 people voted for me in Berkeley, and I appreciate that. So thank y'all, and please, everybody that live in Berkeley, don't give up. Please go to City Council. Please read the agenda. Please do not fall asleep on what's happening in Berkeley. Please don't take away the flea market. Thank you.
Well, the Love Fest continues. So next, we have another special order of business, and it's a presentation of the Rent Board proclamation to Christine Schwartz, which will be presented by Commissioner Chang.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair Laverde, for allowing me to present this as Chair of the Outreach Committee, and thank you to the Outreach Committee for helping me write this.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, sorry. And make sure the cameras, oh, yes. Okay.
Is it on
Well,
you?
facing you, well, me first, and then you. One of me and then you. All right, cool. You're welcome. So, honoring City of Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board proclamation, honoring Christine Schwartz. Whereas Christine Schwartz is a community activist who fights to protect seniors, students, and differently abled communities from unsafe living conditions, evictions, and harassment. And whereas Christina Schwartz has used social media such as Facebook to increase viewership and accessibility for residents and community members who cannot physically attend local government meetings, such as the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board meeting and the City Council meetings. And whereas Christine Schwartz has been consistent in attending regular rent board meetings and committee meetings to advocate for and articulate tenant viewpoints on a variety of subjects considered by the Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board. And whereas Christine Schwartz serves as a fearless role model for residents and stakeholders who seek to weigh in on important matters at the rent board meetings, and whereas Christine Schwartz has fought for tenants' protections locally and at the regional level, promoting a vision for stable communities for generations to come. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City of Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board commends Christine Schwartz for her advocacy on community engagement, disability access, and fair treatment of all Berkeley residents, including vulnerable tenants. Be it further proclaimed that the City of Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board wholeheartedly appreciates Christine Schwartz for using social media to expand residents, landlords, and other stakeholders' abilities to watch rent board meetings.
Yes.
Be it further proclaimed that the City of Berkeley Rent Stabilization Board recognizes Christine Schwartz by declaring our June 20th meeting in honor of Christine Schwartz, past and continuing outreach efforts. This proclamation is hereby issued on June 20th, 2019 by the commissioners. Congratulations.
You deserve it.
Well, now that I've got your attention. Thank you so much. I'm very, very, very honored to receive this proclamation, your first proclamation ever. And I have been very committed to the communities, the most vulnerable, low income, people with mental illness, homeless, people with disabilities, because I experience things like that myself. And that's why it's so important for me, because it means a lot to me. And I know this is the right place to have these issues worked out, these very important life meaning issues, to have affordable housing, safe place to live, and where your rights as a tenant will be not taken so lightly. Thank you, everybody else, for being the role models that you are in everyday life. I know I'm not the only one. And I'm sorry my family can't be here, but we're your family. You are my family, yes. Thank you. And you mean a lot to me. And I want to see you, Christina, in the future, too. Thank you. Yes, and for the Adeline corridor, please, please fight for 100% affordable housing. Thank you. Thank you, Friends of Adeline. Thank you, everyone. It means a lot to me. Well, very low, extremely low, yes.
No income.
And no income. That'll be the first, right? Okay, thank you.
I would like to add that Christine Short is actually responsible for the rent board and now the city for updating Berkeley's elevator code. And it was her activism and her reaching out that the city will, hopefully by the end of the year, will have some placards on walls near elevators in all buildings. So people and tenants, especially those disabled tenants, all know their rights and the responsibilities under Berkeley's elevator code. So I'm really happy for Christine for being the activist. Commissioner Trega?
So another really great example of why every day should be Christine Schwartz Day. Did you know that Christine is solely responsible for ensuring that there is a line item increase being proposed for anti-displacement, rapid rehousing, and flex funding for the unhoused to find a roof over their head. And let me tell you the story of how that happened. Christine asked me, I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Igor, can I work for you? And I said, no, you can't, but I would be honored to work for and with you. So let's work together. So we started working on various policy assignments. And there was a meeting of the Housing Advisory Commission subcommittee where they were making recommendations of how to allocate U1 funding for this year. For those of you who haven't heard or might not remember, U1 is a tax on large landlords that we passed in 2016. I remember fondly walking the streets with Alejandro and Leah and Christina and all of you to make sure that happened, even though we were outspent something like 10-1 by the large landlord lobby. And now there is $4 to $5 million a year flowing into the Housing Trust Fund or the General Fund. And so Christine said, what would it take to put in a little more money? I was like, well, Christine, write a recommendation. So she did. She wrote a policy memo that went to that committee. And guess what? It was so well written that the subcommittee, which has folks of all political persuasions there, they unanimously recommended it to the Housing Advisory Commission. And the Housing Advisory Commission unanimously recommended it to the City Council. And then at the 4x4 meeting just the other week, Christine was there, and she said, well, East Bay Community Law Center and Eviction Defense Center need more money. What can we do? And then we're like, well, the mayor said there's this recommendation that already passed the Housing Advisory Commission. Would you like to just put it in, make a motion? So we did. So now there's a unanimous recommendation by 2 commissions to, I think, almost double the amount of money in that line item going for a Berkeley that we can all call home. But we are not done yet, because next Tuesday is the Budget Council meeting that will be voting on this. And I have heard that there are some members of the City Council that are asking questions about so much why $900,000 is going for basic support for the unhoused. Yeah, wow, that's the reaction I had. I wish more council members had the moral fortitude of some of the folks here who either are or used to be on the council, like Cheryl Davila and Max Sanderson. So let's all as a community do right by Christine Schwartz. Let's all as a community do right by Christina Murphy. Let's all pack the council chambers on Tuesday night to tell them this is why we need more money for these basic services. And please pass this darn line item. And the best part is Christine then said, why can't it be more? I'm just trying to advocate here. Christine, thank you for advocating. We as a community are so much better off for your advocacy. And we will see you on Tuesday night.
And we're not done yet. Christine, your proclamation. And would anyone else like to speak?
Let me just
Go ahead.
very briefly. But you're not leaving town, right? No. I can wait till you leave town. Christine, I see you everywhere, videoing, advocating, working, and I really appreciate what you do. I love you also. Thank you. I want to see you continue your work. I want to help you with your work. Whatever you need, let me know. And I'll get, when was it? Monday night at the Berkeley Tenants Union membership meeting. Christine was there videoing our meeting. I mean, she spent 2.5 hours of her own time, volunteered. This is like, she's amazing that way. And I really appreciate it. It's a real asset to the progressive community.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, we've all spoken, but we haven't given an opportunity for the public to speak, to talk about Christine's work. Gradiva Kauzin?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Christine. I'm so proud of you. You deserve it. I was thinking, as I was sitting there, about there's a Jewish prayer. It's called Hineni. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is Christine's prayer. It's only 3 words in English, here I am. And I mean, this is Christine. She's always here. She shows up. And you guys are in the rent advocacy community, but she shows up in the disaster preparedness community, which is what I do, and she got me into it, and now I always have to show up, which is really hard, but I can't let her down. She's amazing. You're amazing. You're a survivor. You're a trooper. You're still here. You're going to continue to be here. Here you are. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm so proud of you.
Christine Schwartz, you are the most dedicated person I know in Berkeley. You are so dedicated to the media, making sure that it gets out to the people that don't make it to the meetings. You always put it on live so people can watch. And that is so awesome because there's so many people that voice are not being heard because they can't make it for whatever their reasons is. They had to work late, they have kids, or whatever the reason is that they can't get out. And you make it accessible for everyone to be able to watch live and rewatch it. And so I just want to say, when I was on the outreach committee, I had asked that we find some funds to give you because you deserve to get paid for the social media. So hopefully you guys carry that on as well to make sure that she gets on the payroll, because she has been showing dedication for years now, not just this year, but for years, for all the meetings. So I hope that that you continue to do what you're doing and don't never give up. Just because you lose one thing, that's okay, because that opens the door for you to win something else. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll say something real quick. Christine Schwartz is a very strong woman. In politics, things can be very treacherous. You can expect things that don't happen. And I know that Christine has run for the rent board multiple times and has been disappointed by not being nominated from the convention. Some people saying they're going to support her and things don't work out. But she still shows up She still shows up with a smile. And that's someone who's dedicated, that's someone who's strong, and that's someone who cares about the issues. And so I just want to say thank you for that, because honestly, I don't know if I could have done that. I don't know if anybody in this room would have done that. And as a result, that's why you're getting the proclamation, because you are one dedicated sister, and we love you so much. Thank you.
City Council Member Cheryl
Hi.
Davila.
So I just want to thank Christine, because my sister lives in Clear Lake, and I don't think you know her, but she appreciates you so much because she's able to watch the city council meetings, and then she'll be like, what, it's the PRC? What, it's the planning? What, it's like, she's like, she's everywhere. So I appreciate that too, because then it gives me the opportunity to talk to my sister about stuff that happened in the meeting, and she knows all about it. So thank you so much for all that time that you put in voluntarily. And I believe too that the city should be paying you some dinero as well as BUS. I mean, wherever you're at, you need to get paid. Thank you.
So,
Christine. I had a question with you for the Commission on Disability. And we worked together for 2 years on the Commission on Disability. And I really appreciate all the efforts that we worked together on housing, from mental health, from transportation, from all issues in Berkeley. Because I've been on the commission for 6 years now, and I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work, and keep doing it.
Thank you. That was Cheryl Leader, who used to be or was the chair for the Disability Committee here in Berkeley. And in California, wow. Or Miss California, okay. So we have an auditor now?
Hi, I'm Jenny Wong.
Jenny Wong.
And thank you so much for letting me speak. I just wanted to really share 3 words that came to mind when I think of Christine. Committed public servant. And I say this because even before I started running for elections, and occasionally I would watch city council meetings, because that's what people who are dedicated to a career in public service do sometimes, I would see Christine advocating and talking about issues at council meetings. I have really, really appreciated you stepping in and videoing many of the city council meetings, because as the auditor, I get inquiries a lot about the fact that the video, the broadcast live feed isn't working, and in the beginning, I would just, I would apologize. Now I just tell people, please go and watch this wonderful live feed. So I just wanted to really show you appreciation. For me, there are times when I've watched just through Facebook Live, and I really appreciate that. You've just been a terrific, truly committed public servants. You are at almost every meeting, and I go to almost every meeting. So, and I'm talking budget meetings and, city council meetings. You came to my launch party. I mean, and she's got her camera there so that the public can see. And as somebody who really has been thinking through what it means to be serving the public, this is a true gift to the public to have you. So thank you for this wonderful gift, and thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm Genevieve Wilson. I wanted to pick up on some of what Alejandro was saying, and he was talking about how some of the things that I think Christine has done, not a lot of people would have been able to do, would have been able to pull that out or hold that down. And I've thought that a lot about you, Christine. Like, there have been times when I've just thought, like, there's such a, it comes from like a deep place with you. Like, I feel like it comes up out of your gut. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's like a tenacity and like a resilience. There's like an unsinkability to you that I don't think a lot of people have. Like, she'll come back with a smile, right? When most other people will be in tears or just like, I can't do this anymore, right? And I just, I don't think it's just about the issues or even principle with you. It is, and I always appreciate that. It's like you're always pulling people back to principle. But I feel with you like you understand community, and you understand what it is to be family with people. And like, you've invited me into your life and into your home to know your sister, Fran. You shared your food with me and your lunch with me. You've reached out when you needed advice or help. Like, there's a real mutuality with community with you that I think is really beautiful. And I feel like that undergirds all of the practical stuff that you do all the time. And I just wanted to say that in front of folks, because I don't think that that's growing on trees. So thank you for being our friend in this way.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, and Christine, I'm going to give you this.
So well overdue.
Yeah.
We're going to call for a 10-minute break, and then we'll be coming back to do the appeals.
Appeal, right, good.
I took Christine Schwartz's back to get.
And you told me to return it to her
Yeah.
when? Okay, all right.
What should we do with, did Murphy want to do that too? Did I ask her?
Yeah, just ask her.
Okay.
I have her.
Somebody's first.
I didn't hear that. Did you? That's it. Exactly. Just text me. Take 3.
Yes. Yeah.
We already adopted the budget. You want a budget presentation or no? Okay, okay, so now we're like go through, but we had a PowerPoint committee one. So find that thing. Okay, okay, good.
About going forward and looking at
Oh, okay, good, good, good.
Chair.
I kept it in there. Okay, good.
To sit at these tables, and if you're going to be speaking, you want to just.
Should we ask board members or should I just text? Okay. If somebody wants it. Somebody have One more. So this.
You want this to mail it to her with
Yeah,
the
we'll
vote?
just get the signatures and then Leah and, oh, it's just the two,
It's
you're
just the
right.
two, but I just have to add the vote. I'm gonna do this.
So you survived the convention?
I made it. I'm still here.
You never did it. You're like this. Things. You're like in this and this and this and this and this and this. Just, it's like,
Igor, we're starting.
sleep where you fight it.
Honestly, the reception is the way
No, they have to play off and stop you.
This is the
Okay.
All right, I'll let you go. Take care.
How you managed to get it all
It's a
done.
book by Michael.
Well, I don't know about that. It's actually-
You watched that show. All right, thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah, you know what? So say it, yeah. I can do it. This is a very good meeting.
So now we go to item 6 on the agenda. We are going to our first of 2 appeals this evening.
Oh, microphone.
Okay, so we're calling the meeting back to order. We're going to our first of 2 appeals this evening. Our first appeal is case number T5738, 350 Stanton Street. And so what's going to happen today with the appeals, because I know we have 2, is I'm going to call the parties on the appeal, and I'm going to ask them to identify themselves for the record. And then before we start, we would like to give a review of the procedure. The legal staff will give us some review of the case. Next, each party will have 7 minutes to address the board. The appellant first goes first for 5 minutes, the respondent for 7 minutes, and then the appellant again for an additional 2 minutes. I'd like to remind both parties that this is not a new hearing of your case. No new evidence may be presented to the board. Your presentation must be based on the evidence that was before the hearing examiner. After each party has spoken, the board will deliberate and take action on the appeal. So now for a summary, I turn over to Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Do you want the parties to approach for
Yes,
the...
Mr. Chad Anderson, can you please?
Chad Andrews.
Andrew, sorry, I'm so sorry.
I'm not sure if Santhanax Bernard is here. It doesn't matter which side you sit on. Okay. So, as you're aware, the board reached a decision on this matter in your May meeting. Legal staff is recommending that you vacate the board's decision that you reached at that meeting to the extent that the board relied on the July 2018 Craigslist advertisement that legal staff presented in error. The decision regarding the appeal should be vacated and the matter reconsidered. The order spells this out in detail, and legal staff believes that the record supports the recommendation to affirm. If you support this, we would need a motion to vacate the judgment and rehear the appeal.
I move that we vacate the judgment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Don't we have to take a voice?
No, we don't, because Commissioner Simon Weisberg is not on the phone anymore?
That's correct.
So.
Okay.
So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
So now we'll fold this into a hearing on the matter. This is going to sound very familiar to what I presented last month, but for the sake of clarity and to have a clear record, I'm going to repeat much of what I said last month. So this is an appeal of a hearing examiner's decision that the tenants are entitled to a rent reduction to reflect the fact that one of the 4 purported bedrooms in the rental unit cannot legally be used for sleeping. The rent reduction was awarded at a rate of 25% for the period from the departure of the downstairs tenant, January 2018, to the departure of the petitioners, May 2018. I'd like to remind you all that this tenancy ended over a year ago. On appeal, the landlord argues that the tenants should have known that the downstairs room was not a bedroom, as it was used as a music studio by the prior tenants and does not contain a closet. However, it is undisputed that the property was marketed and rented as a 4-bedroom unit, and the tenants were instructed by both the city and landlord appellant that use of the downstairs room as a 4th bedroom was illegal. A determination of the Berkeley Code Enforcement that a unit or portion thereof is not legally habitable does not generally result in displacement of occupants. However, when a tenant ceases to occupy the illegal space, as happened here in January of 2018, it is not lawful for the landlord or any master tenant to replace the departing tenant. Therefore, the hearing examiner had no choice but to award a proportional rent decrease reflecting the reduction in the number of occupants that occurred when the downstairs tenant moved out. Had the landlord acted to legalize the illegal bedroom, the rent reduction would have ended at the time that the downstairs room became a lawful bedroom. In response to legal staff's recommendation, Mr. Andrews now claims not to have marketed the property as a 4-bedroom unit and not to have marketed the property since 2005. However, a Craigslist ad from 2015 directly contradicts Mr. Andrews' claims. The October 2015 Craigslist ad was introduced as evidence in petition T5666 and cited by the hearing examiner in a decision in the appeal before you tonight. In response to Mr. Andrews' post-appeal submissions, the tenant, Sonthonax Bernard, filed a statement that emphasizes some of the evidence that is in the record, while also raising additional allegations that are not contained within the record. He also has expressed his intention to file a separate petition to seek recovery of unpaid security deposit interest. None of that is relevant to tonight's appeal. Staff has made all the submissions of the parties available to the board, but we strongly recommend that you disregard the new factual allegations raised by the parties and focus upon the evidence in the record, namely that the downstairs space is not legally permitted to be used as a bedroom, that Mr. Andrews repeatedly filed vacancy registration forms that state under penalty of perjury that the unit contains 4 bedrooms, and that Mr. Andrews has declined to seek legal permission to convert that space into a legal bedroom. I'm going to read from the record at minute 59:22. This is regarding the October 2015 Craigslist ad discussed on the record. Hearing examiner asks, so at the time when you posted this ad, was it your belief, whether right or wrong, that this is a 4-unit property? Mr. Andrews responds, 4-bedroom? It must have been. I must have had it in my mind. You know, I have. I'm guessing that I must have. I don't think I would have misprinted it. Yeah. So anyway, I listed the ad, and the ad lasted for a few days. And then Mr. Bernard basically said, he's not leaving, and I immediately took it down because I realized it wasn't going to happen. I didn't go back in the house. I remember that there were 4 people living there. Legal staff recommends, again, that the board affirm the hearing examiner's decision.
Thank you. Okay, now each party will have 7 minutes to address the board. Mr. Andrews, the appellant, first will have 5 minutes, and then Mr. Bernard will have 7 minutes, and then Mr. Andrews again for an additional 2 minutes.
Over a year ago, we had a hearing date set. Mr. Bernard, my ex-tenant, wrote an email less than 24 hours prior to the hearing saying he could not attend. Berkeley Rent Board rules do not allow rescheduling on such short notice. Mr. Kalekian broke protocol and allowed this. We did have the hearing. Mr. Bernard lied over and over again about me giving him written and verbal information that I had purported that my converted garage with a cement floor and no closet was indeed a bedroom. Despite the hearing officer's insistence, Mr. Bernard was never able to produce any proof of these statements because they were blatant lies. Since Mr. Bernard snuck into my house without any knowledge, approval, or even any documentation, it is impossible that I ever communicated anything about my house to him. About a month ago, we had an appeals hearing, and Mr. Brown was again duped by Mr. Bernard and presented a Craigslist ad that he stated was written by me, listing the house as a 4-bedroom house. Again, protocol was not followed. The document was received only 1 day before the hearing, not the 1 week as the rules insist. So it never should have been presented. And furthermore, it was not vetted in the slightest. The first line of the ad stated 3 women looking for a fourth housemate. If Mr. Brown had taken the time to read the first line, he would have immediately realized he was again being tricked by Mr. Bernard. When I recently brought up to Mr. Brown that even if the decision were to stand, the monies were calculated totally incorrectly, and I had written this to him in my submitted documents, his response was that I did not submit them in the correct manner, and this would not be re-examined. My conclusion from this is that when Mr. Kalekian and Mr. Brown do not follow protocol, there are no consequences. But when I don't follow protocol, I have no recourse. So far, this hearing process has been so flawed and so biased against me, I urge you to throw out all of this tainted information and let us start over the process with a new set of eyes so we are sure to get a fair and just outcome. If you recall, Mr. Brown has based his entire decision on a fake Craigslist ad and on some vacancy registration forms. It is paramount to understand that vacancy registration forms have absolutely no bearing on the amount of rent that can be charged. Rent is not based upon square footage, location, nor a number of bedrooms. Rent is based solely upon what was being charged upon move-in and how many occupants are allowed to live there. My lease clearly stated maximum 4 occupants. There can be no motive that I would claim more bedrooms than a house actually has on these vacancy registration forms. I have nothing to gain from this. When I filled out this original form about 20 years ago and knew nothing about Berkeley and its complex rent rules, my only intention was to fill it out correctly. Filling it out incorrectly has no bearing on the amount of rent. It is not related. As for tenants and where they are going to sleep where they want to, in formal living rooms, in large closets, in nooks, 2 in a bedroom, sometimes 3, in the garage with no heat, etc. They do not ask for permission where they can sleep. This time was no different. The original occupants on the lease first saw my house with a converted garage set up as a music studio. It was their idea to turn this into a sleeping room. We never discussed it, nor was it ever marketed that way. If they later marketed it as a bedroom to Mr. Bernard, then they must be held responsible for that, not me. But even this is not credible. A converted garage with a cement floor and no closet does not meet the definition of a bedroom. Bonus room, yes. Bedroom, no. But again, tenants will sleep where they want. They always have and always will. The reason is because the code enforcement department has no power over the tenants. It cannot enforce the codes where people are able to sleep. Code enforcement can suggest what is allowed, but what next? They cannot evict tenants. They cannot fine tenants. They actually cannot even enter the unit unless the tenant allows them to. And like in my case, code enforcement just asked us to remove the bed during the inspection, and that would correct the violation, though I was required to put up a smoke detector so any safety issues were addressed. I never told Mr. Bernard where he was allowed to sleep, nor could anything happen to him or his housemates wherever they chose to sleep. I complied with every single thing that the city inspector asked me to do. My house is in compliance. Mr. Bernard, like all the other tenants in the house, knew that the converted garage was not a bedroom and never had been a bedroom. But since we were in the process of evicting him on an unrelated issue, he chose to play this game about not being able to use the converted garage, trying to lay the groundwork for constructive eviction. This is what his lawyer had advised him to do. Do not fall into his trap as Mr. Brown has, and please reverse the decision.
Thank you. Mr. Bernard, you now have 7 minutes.
Hello, good evening, Rent Board. I moved into the unit when I was a grad student at Berkeley, found the place on Craigslist, and during the summer of 2014, one of our roommates, Mr. Dave Heller, was leaving the unit, and Mr. Andrews came to us and said Mr. Heller was one of the original occupants on a lease that was long-standing, and once he leaves, he can raise the rent to whatever because the rent board has given him the authority to do so. So what Mr. Andrews did was he negotiated with me and my 2 other roommates at the time because Mr. Heller was leaving, so it was 4 of us in total. We renegotiated to pay 23% more for rent, and he told us we can replace Mr. Heller. So right then and there, he put it out as a 4-bedroom unit. And so we renegotiated, we signed the lease, but Mr. Andrews required that only one of us can sign the lease. And my roommate, Mr. John Hopkins, did that. He signed the lease, and it was signed, I believe, December 1st, 2014. Within a year, Mr. Hopkins decided that he was ready to leave, and that's when Mr. Andrews came up to us and now wanted a 79% increase in rent. He said since Mr. Hopkins is the only one on the lease, he can charge whatever he wants. So then, without me even agreeing to it, he posted that Craigslist ad, which we also have a copy of a text message with him saying that he posted it for $4,500. Our rent used to be about $2,600, so he wanted $4,500 now for it. And I, having no choice, I decided to go to the rent board to discuss like what my options were. And they told me because I was living there 30 days after the lease was signed, I then qualified to be an original occupant. It's kind of like I signed a lease with John, pretty much is what they told me. I expressed that to Mr. Andrews, and that's when he became a little crazy with it. He first started to block my payments to him. He wouldn't allow me to get other tenants. We couldn't show the house to other tenants. He threatened me with lawsuits. He threatened me with, he said I create damage to the house, all this stuff. And eventually he spoke to the rent board, and they pretty much told him he can't do what he's trying to do. And that I do qualify for the rent to be stabilized and it can't increase. And so he did allow me to live like in the unit, but the new stipulations was everyone who moved into the house, he had to vet them. So everyone who moved into that basement room, he gave authorization for. And I have that via email, and I think I presented it to the hearing examiner. Also at the hearing examination, my roommate who lived in the bedroom downstairs came in and also expressed that Chad came on several occasions to do repairs to the room. There's email documentation of it. The only time that we started to hear that this room, the only time he started denying the room is when the city inspector came by. The city inspector let us know that the room is illegal. And then Mr. Andrews said, I never knew anyone was living down there. Even though, despite the fact that the master tenant who was living there, he lived right down there. And in the hearing, I provided evidence. I showed pictures of the guy in the bedroom, and he was the master tenant. So this was all nothing but a ploy to try to get me outside of the unit, because he still demanded full rent, even though that he knew that he advertised the place as a 4-bedroom and it's really a 3. He still wanted full rent. So I went months paying double rent, like for the property, and that's just a ploy by him because he knows this process. We're here. I filed this over a year and a half ago, and now I'm here, right? And paying double rent, like. That's just going to financially squeeze me to leave the property. And that was his end game, and that's what he got. I was forced to leave the unit. A lot of people ask me a lot of times, like, why didn't you leave sooner? Literally, it took me forever. Like, when I came out here, I had financial aid. I had money, like, with me. I got a full scholarship to come here. They gave me funding. It took me forever to find housing. It's just not easy. Just being a black male, it just takes me forever to get housing. I have a 750 credit score, but still, it's still a long and daunting process. So that's why I would stand like 3 years of him just harassing like nonstop. And I think I've also submitted testimonies from my roommates as well. And the last thing I'll say is he wants you to think that this is a one-time thing. It's not. Because he himself told me I've been doing this for a long time, I looked him up and I submitted to you guys 35 cases involving him with various tenants. Wow. Ask him where he was yesterday. He was at court yesterday for tenants at 1608 Prince Street, Fukuda and like 7 other people here. Ask him where he's going to be at tomorrow. He's at court again for another tenant, Tamara Sherberwitz. She lived at 1606 Prince Street. What's the court case on? Wrongful eviction. So this is just a pattern. This is just what he does for a living. He just evicts people and creates tension to try to reset the market rate. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Mr. Andrews, you have 2 more minutes.
Yeah, just once again, I'm just here listening to lies. I was at home actually yesterday with my kids. No, I wasn't in court yesterday. No, there aren't 35 court cases, all lies. But let's just get back to the facts. Sonthonax Bernard was my tenant for several years. As you know, he harassed me and my family to the point where where I had to get restraining orders against him and many civil standbys by the Berkeley police. Eventually, Mr. Bernard was not allowed to call me, write me, text me without having someone else proofread what he wrote and send it from their email address. The damages he did to my property, I got a $6,500 judgment against him that he still hasn't paid one dime of. Did I make a bad judgment in allowing Mr. Bernard to rent my house? No, I actually never rented to him. I never met him or spoke with him before he started living in my house. He moved in without my knowledge or consent. I have no paperwork on him whatsoever. Staff Attorney Matt Brown has built his entire case upon this myth that I misled the rent board and my tenants into believing my house was a 4-bedroom instead of a 3-bedroom house. Rent control is based upon price at move-in and number of occupants. It has absolutely nothing to do with the size of house, or in this case, the number of bedrooms. There is no motive to mislead the rent board or any potential tenant about how many bedrooms are in my house. Please reverse this decision. Thank you.
Chair, do you mind real quick before you start?
Yes.
There was a lot of testimony given, and I want to encourage everyone to only focus what's in the record here so that we don't discuss things that are outside of the record. Also, if you don't mind, I just want to clear up a couple of the things that Mr. Andrews said before we start. He said tenants are going to sleep wherever they want to. He has no control over that. Legal staff quite agrees with that. And as we made clear in our recommendation, that's true except for when code enforcement comes in and mandates that you not use a room for sleeping. The concept that he also is promoting throughout his 7 minutes is that rent control has nothing to do with the size of the unit or the number of bedrooms. That's also true. What's further true is that we have, the record is replete with evidence that Mr. Andrews not only believed the unit to be 4 bedrooms, but stated under penalty of perjury that the unit was 4 bedrooms. Therefore, there is a necessary proportional adjustment to the rent when one of those bedrooms is unusable for sleeping purposes. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Alpert and then Commissioner Chang.
So we are here again because staff did their due diligence and we removed from consideration an item of evidence that acted to show that at one point this building under consideration was advertised at 4 units. Even without that piece of evidence, there is still ample evidence in the record. Most importantly, vacancy registrations with the rent board, formal filings of its 4-unit status, 4-bedroom status, thank you. Given those filings and the fact that one of the purported units or purported bedrooms was found to be not a bedroom, I would move that we uphold our previous decision.
Second.
All those in favor? Well, sorry. Sorry. So we have a motion. Do we want to vote on this, or do we want to talk?
I just have one quick thing to ask.
Okay, so let me have the question for Commissioner Chang, and then your comment, Commissioner Sotovejil.
I have a question.
So, and this is just a kind of a legal question. So the first thing is, because we are an elected body and we are serving as quasi-judicial body right now, I want to know if our role as quasi-judicial body is different than, let's say, the quasi-judicial body of, let's say, the Planning Commission or the ZAB. And well, let me finish my question really quickly. And the second question is, I'm just really curious, like, what happens when somebody is like caught lying to us? Like, what exactly is the ramification for that? Because I know that people have been caught lying to ZAB and planning and nothing ever really happens. And I'm very concerned. Is there a reason why we don't let people swear by the religion of their choices, like document? Like, I'm just curious as to what that is.
So to answer the first question, we are a quasi-judicial legislative agency. similar to the ZAB, except for that the ZAB is overseen by council, so that the ZAB's final vote is not the final vote before court review, whereas the board's final vote is the final vote before court review, if the parties choose. And as you know, very few of your decisions are challenged. The answer to the second question is that we there are several documents that landlords and tenants can file under penalty of perjury. As far as the veracity of the claims made, there would not be any penalty legal that we could impose upon somebody if we found their statements to be untrue. I believe the only government agency that would be able to do that would be the district attorney, who could sue perhaps a city attorney for fraud or misrepresentation. However, the way that works for us is it goes to the credibility of the witness, and it goes to, into the decision making first by the hearing examiner, and then of course in front of the 9 elected commissioners under your review.
Thank you. Commissioner Sotovejil?
Yeah, looking at the report and a statement that Mr. Andrews said today, I just want to clarify. Under our report, it indicates that it's undisputed that the landlord appellant, Mr. Andrews, marketed the subject unit as a 4-bedroom unit. And you said in your testimony today that you did not do that. Is that what you said?
So I'm not sure why Mr. Brown said it was undisputed, because where did that come from? He brought a fake document that showed supposedly that I marketed a year ago, that he later said that wasn't written by me because I didn't write that.
So you didn't put this on Craigslist?
This is October 2015. He most certainly did.
He's conflating them on purpose.
So, may I finish?
Yes.
So when I rented to these people, right, it was rented to them, his group, it was like 15 years ago, and I couldn't find the Craigslist ad. It had expired. So I can't swear what was written in that ad, but when I rented the place, the time before them, I rented the place, and I also don't have that ad. It was on Craigslist, and it had expired. And the people moved in, and they set up the converted basement with cement floor, no closet, just how it stands today, as a music studio. I cannot swear how I marketed it. I can't imagine that I would have written 4 bedrooms when I would have written it just like I wrote it the last time I did it. 3 bedrooms plus a bonus room, which is what it is.
He testified at the hearing. I read his testimony, and I also have, I can pass it around, the Craigslist ad that was not disputed at the hearing that he submitted October 2015, freshly painted 4-bedroom, 1-bath house.
So the ad that
at 3050 Stanton Street.
So the ad that Mr. Brown's talking about was an ad that never went out there longer than a day. I didn't go back into the house. It was an ad that never generated any renters. I hadn't been back in the house. So that ad I did write. That ad at that moment, in my mind, I said, oh, let's see. I knew they were sleeping in there.
You did write that. So it is an undisputed fact in your statement now.
No, I think we're misinterpreting 2 things. The people that rented the place, Mr. Bernard, the claim is Mr. Bernard's been claiming, Mr. Andrews rented us a 4-bedroom house. That means you need to predate that ad because he came in way before that ad.
But then you're still, and so the city came in and said, this is really a 3-unit. So you posted this in October knowing that the city said it's a 3-unit and it's still a 4-unit?
This was way before.
3-bedroom.
This was way before the city came in.
The code enforcement came in 2017. He posted this ad in 2015. But we also have 3 vacancy registration forms signed under penalty of perjury in which he similarly swears that there are 4 bedrooms in the house. How many times?
I just find it very difficult that somebody would come before us and lie to us, like Commissioner Chang is saying.
Right.
What is the ramifications of somebody lying to us?
Totally agree.
And you do.
Yeah, Mr. Bernard said I was in court yesterday. That's a blatant lie.
Do we have the power of contempt of the rent board as a quasi-judicial board? It's a joke. So I would second Commissioner Alpert's
Motion.
Where is the lie that are you speaking of me, that I'm saying something that's not true right now?
I never accused you of lying.
Okay, I got lost in that last part.
I've been a little lost in your statements as well.
Let me try to clarify then. What
No, I don't need
part of my
clarity.
statement did you get lost in?
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Trega.
Thank you. A lot of things have been said today, and I would go back to Councillor Brown's admonition that we stick to the facts in the record. And the facts in the record present a case that is open and shut. There was a notice of violation that was issued by the city. I serve on the zoning board. I've spent 7 years there. In my experience, notices of violation, whether one may agree or disagree with how they come about, it takes a lot of research to issue a notice of violation by housing code enforcement staff, which is what happened here. And notices of violation need to be mitigated or addressed or resolved. And the way to do that in this case was to eliminate the fourth bedroom, or alleged fourth bedroom, from being a bedroom that is habitable because it was not safe or deemed to be safe for habitability. And so the rent board, by its regulations, has a proportionality concept. If only 3 out of 4 bedrooms can be occupied for living and sleeping, then it stands to reason that a 25% reduction must proceed from that conclusion. And so that is all there is to it. This is open and shut to me. It is quite clear. And we are acting within the powers and bounds of our authority in issuing this quasi-judicial decision. So I would like to call this to question.
Okay, so then we should take a vote. We have a motion, it's been seconded. So all those in favor and
Would you mind doing a roll call, please?
Yeah.
And can I clarify that the motion is to affirm the hearing examiner's decision? Is that correct?
yes, it is to affirm, yes.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind doing a roll call, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Motion by Alpert and Trey second?
Correct.
Or,
No, oh, my mistake. I thought I seconded it.
I will cede my second to Commissioner Soto Hill.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you. So let's do a roll call. Amy?
So it's moved by Alpert, seconded by Soto Hill?
Yes.
Sure. Thank you. Commissioner Alpert?
Aye.
Chang?
Yes, with comment.
Now or after the vote?
After.
Solosky?
yes.
Soto Hill?
Yes.
Tregu?
Yes.
Liberte?
If there ever was a case that we should be affirming yes, yes.
Excellent. Motion carries 6002.
So I'll make this really quick. Oh, sorry. Can I?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll make this really quick. In the future, whether you're a property owner or a tenant, if your case gets appealed, make sure you also appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to our second appeal. So thank you very much, Mr. Bernard. Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Thank you. Okay, so our second appeal.
Thank you, board, for taking the time and really going through thorough tonight. Thank you very kindly.
Can we leave?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Before they start speaking, can you ask them to state their name for the record?
Oh, yes, thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to our second matter, our second appeal tonight. It's case number T5752, 1675 Euclid Avenue. So the appellant,
Pardon me, the appellant forwarded an email about 10 days ago to the effect that we didn't give enough notice. I responded that we gave the notice. This appellant has appealed a number of cases since I've been advising the board, and we give the same statutory notice for all appeals, as you know, 2 weeks. It's required by Regulation 1242. He submitted some written comments that I forwarded to you as well. But I made it clear to him in my response, and I can read it to you if you like, that the board would be going ahead with his appeal, whether or not he made an appearance.
Okay, then let's go. So we're going to go first. You're going to give a summary of the case?
Certainly. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. This is an appeal of a hearing examiner's decision that the tenants are entitled to a rent refund are entitled to a rent refund of $18,658.65 for severe violations of the warranty of habitability and substantial deterioration of the rental unit, as well as an ongoing rent reduction of 20% based on lack of adequate heat in the unit. On appeal, the landlord simply disputes the factual basis for the hearing examiner's decision, arguing that the conditions identified as inadequate were, in fact, in good repair, and that the tenants were otherwise responsible for damaging the unit. The rent reductions were awarded for a lack of heat, 20%, broken and collapsing windows, 10%, water leaks, 10%, and substantial deterioration of floors, countertops, and walls throughout the unit, another 10%. The photographs of the unit depict extraordinarily poor conditions, as you see in the record. And the text messages and email exchanges demonstrate that the tenants' repeated and timely efforts to seek repairs on an ongoing basis went unanswered. The reductions total 50% from January 25th, 2015, 3 years prior to the filing of the petition, to December 2017, when the repair of the water leaks reduced the total reduction to 40% until May 16, 2018, the date of the decision, when the code violations other than insufficient heat were cleared. The 20% reduction for insufficient heat remains in effect until the landlord establishes that it has been repaired. The landlord offers absolutely no legal support for any of his claims on appeal, nor for reversal or remand of the decision. Furthermore, a review of the record establishes that the hearing examiner's reductions were supported by extensive documentary evidence, including dozens of emails and photographs, a detailed housing code enforcement inspection report, and compelling testimony under oath by the tenants. The decision is consistent with state law, the rent ordinance, and board precedent. Legal staff thus recommends that the decision be affirmed.
Thank you. So we have a respondent here, Ms. Jennifer Crofton. Can you say your name, please?
Yeah. Is it on?
Yes. Oh, no, you turned
You
it
have
off.
to turn it again.
Push it? Okay. My name's Jenny Crofton.
You can let it go. Just make sure it's red.
Green.
Oh.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I'm Jenny Crofton. Cassidy couldn't make it tonight.
So you have 7 minutes to discuss share your story with us.
Okay, great. I've been living at this property from 2011. I've had the same problems consistently the entire time. I didn't realize that that a lot of this was illegal and I was entitled to rent reductions until more recently, which is when I filed the original petition. As Mr. Brown said, we submitted a great deal of evidence, and my landlord, Dr. Ghoshal, he didn't, in his request for appeal, he didn't state any legal grounds for overturning the judgment of the hearing examiner. And as you all know, you're required to only consider evidence that was before the hearing examiner. In his request for appeal, he didn't state any particular reason that new evidence should be submitted. And he's obviously not here today. I would contend that, consistently he's always done everything that he can to get out of doing his due diligence as a landlord, both as far as our contract and as far as the laws set forth by the city of Berkeley. and this request for appeal is just an extension of that. There's literally no legal grounds whatsoever for anything that's written in his appeal. So I would just simply ask that you take into consideration the advice of your staff attorney and look at the decision of the hearing examiner, which was quite thorough, and basically affirm his decision.
Thank you. Any comments from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Tragub, then Alpert.
Thank you. Based on the extensively researched record, this looks to me like another open and shut case, and I move the staff recommendation.
I will second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Alpert?
Yeah, I just wanted to remark that it's rather insulting for someone to appeal a case before us who evidently has done this many times before, and then for him not to present himself. And I wanted to apologize to you that your time has been wasted, and reiterate that I support Igor's motion.
Likewise, I'm sorry that you had to deal with this, but
No, and I want to comment that your situation is probably, well, it is one of very egregious, and it is a shame that you've paid a lot of money to a property owner who disregards the value of what you're providing them. You are paying them to be able to live, and they can't even have the decency to give you decent, habitable. So I'm so sorry you're dealing with that, because unfortunately your landlord is the type of landlord that gives landlords a bad name, bad name, and that's such a shame. There are a lot of good landlords here, but this obviously is a landlord that, shame on him, shame on him. Okay, Commissioner Veselowski.
Thank you. For the record, I do want to point out in pages, I think starting on page 28, 29 of our packet here of the hearing summary. Code violations were issued for leaking bathroom and kitchen sink faucets. And I'll go back to what Commissioner Tragub said earlier. Code violations are not easily come by. Okay? Okay, let me list what it says in this report. Code violations were issued for leaking bathroom and kitchen sink faucets. A code violation was issued for a deteriorated kitchen countertop with loose tiles and deteriorated caulking and rust, etc. A code violation was issued for a deteriorated kitchen floor covering, which created a trip hazard. A code violation was issued for loose tiles and damage to areas surrounding the tub shower, excuse me. A code violation was issued for rust and wear in the bathroom sink, creating an unsanitary condition. Code violation was also issued for malfunctioning stove range. Only one of the 4 burners apparently were functional. This is not an isolated one thing, okay, I'm sorry, this didn't get fixed, it slipped through the, there's a whole list here of code violations. And yes, I agree with my colleagues, let's vote on this. I call the question.
Okay. Okay, so a call to question. We're going to vote. We're going to do a roll call vote to affirm the decision. So, Ms. Amy.
Okay. Commissioner Alpert.
Aye.
Chang.
Yes.
Solosky.
Yes.
Sotovihil.
Yes, with comment.
Okay. Tragub.
Yes.
Laberde.
Yes.
Motion carries 6002.
Commissioner Sotovihil.
It's just a procedural element here. When a appellant or a respondent, particularly appellant, cannot attend a meeting without justification, I think it might be procedurally in our best interest to move quickly through the procedure and issue somewhat like a default judgment based on what our hearing examiner issues. I don't know if that's been a practice in the past, or it could be a practice in the future, but for the benefit of the board, if you don't show up, you shouldn't have any ruling in your favor. It should be an automatic dismissal of some sort.
Certainly, the board has the ability to set its procedures for that. If you do offer some sort of summary decision process, I'd prefer if you allowed legal staff at least to defend the recommendation before making a vote on it.
Should that be great? I mean, the issue is that if a tenant is feeling like they're being harassed, and this is just one more element of harassment, I think we should not support that harassment. Does that make sense?
That's fine, except for the party that doesn't show could be the tenant.
Right, but once again, if the tenant has a reason that they can't make it, I don't think there was a reason given from the appellant in this
Right.
case.
I interpreted what you said as the party and not necessarily landlord or tenant.
Right.
Basically the appellant.
Yeah, as a
So, you know, at times tenants appeal and at times they haven't showed up either.
And there's times tenants harass landlords, we understand that.
So, I mean, I guess what I would say is if you want to engage in more a summary sort of default-like proceeding, it would be best at least to have staff present and then to vote on it afterwards.
Can I
Lydia.
just say that I really appreciate where you're coming from, because I've suffered a great deal of harassment from this landlord, and I really don't appreciate the fact that he made an appeal.
And you're here and he's not.
I'm here and he's not, yeah.
That's exactly why I'm bringing this forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Trega, and then we're going to go to our next item.
Yeah, this is, I'm speaking beyond this episode. I'm not sure if you are or how familiar you are with the tenant protection ordinance. It is somewhat newly instituted in Berkeley. And you have certain rights for the tenant protection ordinance.
Yeah, I've certainly gone out of my way to educate myself on that since all of this came to light. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, and good luck.
Thanks. Yeah, have a great evening.
You too. Okay. No, okay, because we have a couple more things. Okay, so now we move to the action items. Action item number 9A. So we're here to discuss and the possible action concerning the selection and appointment to fill the vacancy of the rent board. Commissioner Solosky and myself have submitted a document or a recommendation that the board establish an ad hoc committee to develop recommendations for a process to select and vote on a proposed interim commissioner. Consistent with past practices, the committee would consist of the current and past board chair and vice chair, which in this case would be Commissioner Simon Weisberg, myself, Commissioner Solosky, and Commissioner Sotovejil. The committee will meet as necessary to come back with a recommendation for the full board to consider at the July 18, 2019 board meeting. I'd like to give a little bit of background. This is not too long, this is 2 paragraphs. The board has tried a number of ways to fill a vacancy in the past. On several occasions, the process has changed after candidates were vetted at the time of the selection was to be made. A lack of certainty and consistency undermines the integrity of the process and causes unnecessary friction between the commissioners. It is essential that everyone have confidence in the process. An important first step to achieve this is for the board to agree and adhere to the process of selecting and voting on a proposed interim commissioner. There are no set rules for selecting and voting on a proposed interim commissioner. The board may wish to establish procedures for considering possible appointees and for making a selection from among candidates before we begin the recruitment and selection process. We believe that the heavy lifting of this task is best done by a committee, which may require several meetings, rather than the full board. The full board ultimately would approve any process that is proposed. So, I move that we approve this ad hoc committee.
Second.
Third.
Okay, great. Any comments from anyone?
There's like 7.
Commissioner Alpert?
Briefly, I wanted to thank both Chair Laverde and Commissioner Slosky for bringing this item forward. And just state, I think it might even be a good for the board if we not just set up a procedure for this appointment, but try and come up with a procedure that we can codify for future appointments so that we don't have to every time go through the process of deciding our procedures. So I don't think that we need to change anything about the item, but just keeping in mind, it might be good for the 4 commissioners on the subcommittee to keep in mind a long-term solution for this kind of issue.
Yes, I'd say I agree. Anyone else? Any comments? Commissioner Chang?
Yeah, so, and I am supporting this motion and what was presented by Chair Laverde and former Chair and current Commissioner Solowski. But I will say, I understand that in the past, there were perhaps conflict in regards to the folks who were selected, but we have to understand that at the end of the day, the person getting selected has to have 5 votes, and regardless of what the results is, generally speaking, the person that gets appointed generally does end up having a good relationship, even with those who did not agree to appoint them. So I just want to say that it's okay if we have disagreements. Either way, I hope that we can come together united.
Thank you. So let's go for a vote.
Sorry, once again, I heard 3 different people second. I'm not sure who won, so.
You can have your second, Commissioner Alpert.
Alpert, okay. So the motion is to establish an ad hoc committee to develop recommendations for a process to select and vote on a proposed interim commissioner. Did you want a roll call or?
Well, it's all those.
Alpert?
Aye.
Chang?
Yes.
Solosky?
Yes.
Sotomayor?
Yee.
Tregu?
Yes.
Laverde?
Yes.
Motion carries 6002.
Okay, and so next I'm going to have the executive director and legal staff talk about regarding the selection committee as a selection appointment to fill the vacancy on the board. Do we need to go through that? Do we need that now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
Okay.
you can discuss it next meeting. I mean, the gist of it is that this is based on the charter, not the ordinance.
Uh-huh.
So the charter allows for the board to select a replacement when somebody vacates a seat before it expires, before they're set to term out of office for that particular term, rather. So the memo that we've submitted essentially speaks to that.
Okay. Actually, I hope everyone gets to read it because it is very insightful about the different ways. So, okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving right along, we now go to Section 10, Information Announcements and News Articles. We have an update on the request for RVP to digitize the files for the new database solutions. Executive Director? Item
I just have one other question. Item
Okay.
6 was also, the waivers were also placed on the consent?
Yes.
Okay, somehow I missed that, so, good.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, on the proposed update on both RFPs, we are probably about 2 to 3 weeks away. We're reviewing the actual language in the RFP, so hope for the database solution. And so we expect to be issuing it sometime in mid-July, probably coming back to the board, hopefully by your August meeting. We might, depending upon the timing, we might ask for a special meeting to review the proposals and hopefully make a selection of the vendor. We're going to try really hard to have the process completed so that we can select a vendor in August. I'd prefer not waiting till September, just so that we make sure that whatever system we select, whatever vendor we select to design it, they're actually able to complete it in time for registration. What we've also done, we shared the draft request for proposal with the Finance Department, the City Clerk, and the IT Department. The request for proposal for the scanning of all of our property files. And at their recommendation, what we're doing is, I actually thought we'd have issued it by now, but they suggested that what we do is we wait to see what the request for what the platforms and some other background information that, for the database, what that came back with, make a selection on what direction we wanted to go with the database before we move forward with the RFP. Wanted to make sure that the dog was wagging the tail rather than the other way around. So we have that pretty much ready. We just need to fill in one or two little details about, to make sure that whatever they develop meets our future needs as opposed to our current needs. So we thought that was very good advice, and we're following that. So we think probably issue that sometime around August, around the same time that we make a selection on a vendor for the database. So if anybody has any questions, that's.
Any questions? Okay, next, the report on the market mediums for the first quarter of 2019.
Yes.
And I find this very interesting because, of course, the rents are going up all the time. And oh, I lost it.
You sound like another chair I know, former chair.
So, well, you can talk about this, but I do have some comments.
Sure. No, what we tried to do is just summarize it on the first page. Studios went up, and again, rather than looking last quarter to this quarter, the most accurate data is the first quarter of last year compared to the first quarter of this year, because there's similar sample size, similar market forces. So studios went, in the first quarter, went from 1,600 in 2018 to 1,695, 6% increase. One bedrooms from 1950 to 1995, a 2% increase. And again, that's from one year to the next. Two bedrooms, 2,504 to 2,723, which is a 9% increase. And three bedrooms, 3,150 to 3,500 was a market median. So that was an 11% increase.
And as usual, I'm outraged, although I find that the increase of 2% on the one bedrooms is low considering. So the last time that we were provided a market median rent comparison was back in April, I believe.
I think so.
And we saw that the rents went up on average, I think it was for the studio apartments, they went up 58%. For one bedroom, they went up 46%. For two bedroom, they went up 52%. And for the three bedroom, they went up, I think, 46%. It was like an average of 50%. And I would like it if you could put in there, or then the next time we get a report, what it looks like in the previous 5 years. So, because it's important to see how rents keep on going up. I mean, I know that we're just comparing 2 years, but I find it very interesting, I think important for data to be able to give us just a graphic of what it looks like in the 5 years. I think it's very helpful. Okay. And, who says property owners and rent control units are not making a fair return on their investment? Híjole. Commissioner Alpert.
Briefly, I'll just say I'm contributed to this increase in the average rent. I just moved into a new apartment, a new two-bedroom apartment with a roommate. It's right at the average, 2,700. So, small place.
Okay, thank you. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
So
ahead.
since we're on that topic, I mean, I do just want to say if you're willing to move every year, it is actually cheaper to move into a luxury apartment because you can get the first month off.
If you can afford it.
It is cheaper but it is actually cheaper, yes.
Okay, so on these items, would recommend everyone to go through these items on the tip of the month. The renter unit safety, I'm skipping, sorry. Is people interested in hearing what the upcoming rent board outreach events are? No, we can go on to the tip of the month, which is security deposits, which is important for students who are going to be moving out and moving in soon to Berkeley. And then The tip of the month, rental unit safety. I just want to remind everyone that as of January 1st, the landlords are supposed to provide certified notice that that their units are habitable, that everything is working and is safe, as in doors, windows, gas range, railings, and other items. And if a tenant has not received their certification that is required to be provided to them by the landlord, they can always call the city's rental housing safety program and to request that either there be an inspection or that to make sure that their units are habitable. The next items are all newspaper articles that were provided by the executive director. Do you want to comment on any of your items?
No, I think there's a lot of really high-quality reading there, particularly this month. But I also wanted to direct board members that there's a very interesting podcast that's out right now, recently, On the Media, which is regularly on the radio program. They're doing a special podcast on evictions.
Oh, nice.
And it's very, very interesting.
On the media,
the name of the show is On the Media. I think that's the name of the podcast.
yes, on KQED at 2 o'clock on Sundays, because I like that segment.
Oh, okay.
I like that one.
There you go.
But on KALW, they have it on another time.
Okay.
But I know they have it on KQED on Sundays.
And I think they're doing it as a series, as a separate series, as opposed to just part of the regular episodes.
So I've provided a couple of articles on just item 11. It says San Diego Times article, a rare victory for rent control, shows California tenants limited political power, and this is in regards to the anti-gouging legislation, AB 1482, which says that landlords can charge 7% plus CPI. Every year. In the Bay Area last year, the San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose region, the Consumer Price Index, which is CPI, was 3.9%. So this basically gives property owners a 9.9% increase. Where they say that tenants have limited political power, I personally believe it's not that we have limited political power, is that we're being blocked, we're not being listened. So it is important for tenants to have our voice heard, and that the efforts are being made to do that. So all the other articles speak for themselves that I've provided.
I actually had one other, just to draw attention. There's two obituaries that are listed that I thought were very moving. One about William Caldera, 300, and the other about William Lukenhaus, who oftentimes would attend our meetings up until, I believe he attended the night before he passed away, if the date in the article is correct. So, both presence of both these two people will be greatly missed.
Yes, it's very sad. Commissioner Traeger.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. I neglected to do this at the beginning, but I'd love to see if we could adjourn in memory in honor of both William Barclay Caldera, also known as 300, and by Bill Lutkenhaus, who both of whom have attended many a rent board meeting, and we will miss them.
Yes, I would like to add that, Mr. Caldera and Mr. Lutkenhaus was, and along with my patron saint now, Byron Runford, I mean, may their spirit live within us, because Mr. Caldera was a very smart man, but did have issues, and his issues are the issues of many people who, for one reason or the other, lose their housing because of their health issues. Mr. Lutkenhaus was an older gentleman who also were seeing more and more issues for our elderly residents. And the issue is that the baby boomer generation right now is getting older, and we're now seeing baby boomers being affected. And so may their spirit live with us. Okay. Moving on, we just need updates on committees. Budget and personnel?
So we have completed the budget process for this year. I would like to extend my appreciation to members of the board for unanimously approving the budget. But I don't think anyone deserves more praise and appreciation than staff, in particular Director Kolikian and
Yes.
Leif Porcel, our analyst who put together meticulous documents, and I'm going to save mine for future reference. Actually, this is the most well-researched budget proposal that I have seen in any agency, including the city council. Thank you. Sorry, but it's true.
Budget stuff, do you?
Yes, go ahead.
So I wanted to thank you for the kind words. I wanted to call out, also thank you for acknowledging staff. This was really, this is one of my more favorite budget processes because it really involved a lot of staff people. Assistance was invaluable. Allison worked on portions of it. Amy, as she always does, provides invaluable assistance. Sharon, another person upstairs in administration, also participated. And after consulting with the chair, we did not end up doing our PowerPoint presentation, which started with George W. Bush. So you missed that. It would have been even more spectacular. Maybe some other time, or anybody who wants to come into the
Special order of business next month.
Okay, or maybe we'll do it at the next Budget Personnel Committee. But I was really, really happy that so many people were involved in actually putting this together, and I think it shows.
Yes, and I also want to say, I really do appreciate that under goals and new initiatives for fiscal year 2019 and 2020, that we're going to continue studying and memorizing the impacts of Costa-Hawkins and Berkeley and other cities in the state. Thank you very much. Next, well, we don't have anyone for eviction, Section 8 foreclosure. Habitable and sustainable housing.
We are waiting for a few staff reports, so until then, we will be meeting later.
Okay, I can say that the IRA AGA and registration, we're going to be meeting on July 2nd. Outreach Committee?
I thank you for allowing me 5 minutes because I normally give a pretty detailed report, but I think the only real thing to report back is that our outreach committee have made our recommendations for the survey that we look forward to go out in 2020 of January, and I should report out as chair of the outreach committee who has to represent the committee in regards to the budgeting process of the survey. It's important to note that we will do a traditional sampling survey with the staff member. I understand that a lot of committee members wanted us to do a 360 survey, and many of the reasons include community members need to be reached out to, especially in regards to what a lot of the surveys have to bring. I'm realizing that I might take up the whole 5 minutes. The reality is that we do have a robust outreach program, whether it's the letter of your annual fee increases, whether it's knowing your rights, whether it's tip of the month with funding for a social media campaign. We do a lot. There is always ways to improve. That is what the outreach committee is for. I ask all board members to send me emails with recommendations to discuss on the outreach committee, and I'm deeply committed to fighting for more funding for any creative sorts of outreach. So having said all of that, we will go forward. The executive director, thank you for your time, really, and thank you for allocating staff time to this, because to the public, this is actually a cost-saving measure, and I really appreciate that. And then finally, I will say is the director's also helping me develop a 10-year survey, but moving it to on the 5 years instead of the 0 years, mainly because it would be a good time to do it in between census reports versus before census reports. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then again, now ad hoc committee on technology issues. I think that might be you again, Commissioner Chan.
Oh, yes. Okay, so.
You are the chair of the chair.
Thank you. I want to thank Commissioner Solosky for making the time to do this, and I actually really want to thank our staff member, Amy, for really putting together a lot of the information and feedback and surveys that a lot of the commissioners have done. We are still working out a lot of the details, one of which is cost, one of which is user experience. What I will say is that if you do have feedback, please give them to staff. I hope you don't mind, Amy. But that being said, part of the directions that I think we are going towards is actually we want to make it where it's a we will provide you with electronics to read paperless agendas if you need one, but we want to move away from assigning everybody one because it's not as practical as it is. We might even consider stuff like as having computers on deck in case you don't have electronics that day. But having said all of that, we are trying to move away from assigning, and ultimately it's to save cost in the hopes of doing that. Oh, and also staff time. The part of the reason why we thought that doing this version would reduce staff time, one of the biggest staff time used is to actually fix the IT problem, especially because iPads and iOS, right, is not compatible with our city management system. So I know it's a longer report, but just want to let y'all know. And once again, for those of you who do use iPads, we're not going to try to take your current iPads away, but we are trying to, move forward with new policies. And once again, if you have feedback, please give it to Amy so that way she can convey that to us so we can create a cohesive policy moving forward. And this was not a bad idea. This was a great idea, and our goal is still to be paperless. So thank you. I know Commissioner Sotovill really spearheaded that, and it's great, and we're just perfecting what was originally proposed.
You can take my iPad back. It's never worked properly.
Thank you. So does anyone have any updates or announcements regarding future special meetings? No? Discussion of items for possible placement on future agendas?
Just one
Oh,
other,
sorry.
the 4x4 we didn't cover.
Oh, we didn't cover the
So-
4x4.
and
I'm
the
sorry.
The only thing that I have is the next meeting is June 26th, but if there's anything from the prior meetings that we want to announce.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's next Wednesday. Yes, thank you. Commissioner Traeger?
And actually, just one of the plethora of items covered at the next 4x4 meeting will be the item that was unanimously passed by the Rent Board last month, which was authored by Commissioner Murphy.
Yes, it's going to be on the tax money on cannabis. Okay, thank you. Okay, so again, go ahead.
Before we adjourn, very briefly, there was something that didn't make it into the packet, that might have made it into the packet, but I'm glad it didn't, because an even better version came out. I'm not sure if you saw, but my hat was very famous recently. And very prominently on most of the photos of that hat is one button reading, Protect Renters, Repeal Costa-Hawkins Affordable Housing Act. And I just wanted to let you know, not only was it that button specifically in the AP News, and therefore all over all of the internet articles about the convention that happened recently, but just this past weekend, the Jewish Bulletin of Northern California used a picture of my hat and most of my face as the cover of their article. And the most prominent button on there is Protect Renters. So helping to spread the good word.
Would the hat be seeking an appointment for the 9th seat on the Rent Board?
No, it is a very busy hat. Thank you.
Okay, so I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting in the memory of William Berkeley Caldera, known as 300, and Mr. Bill Luntgenhaus.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
So my light is red.
I already,
My light's red.
have you seen my hat?
Oh, you guys are like, oh, it's green. But this isn't the